from June 2023 to June 2024, which is more than the Scottish average of 8.4%. Police Scotland have launched a witness appeal after a man was attacked on a Clydebank road in the early hours of July the 21st. The assault took place on White Crook Street at around 4:30 a.m. A 43-year-old man was taken to the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital for treatment. A 45-year-old man was arrested but later released. Inquiries are still ongoing and police would like to hear from anyone who was in the area at the time and saw what happened. Scottish Conservative MSP Russell Finlay has announced he is running to succeed Douglas Ross as party leader. He is the first party member to officially enter the running, with several colleagues thought to be considering bids. Mr. Ross announced he would step down after an argument over his decision to stand as a candidate in the UK general election, despite previously saying he will step down to concentrate on his duties at the Scottish Parliament. 3 members of the new cabinet have told the BBC that if Labour does not keep its promises, voters will back populists instead. Chancellor Rachel Reeves said it will be an institutional failure if they could not get things done. She also said that the public has lost faith in mainstream politics, and if they fail, voters will turn towards the far left or far right. And now for African news. Public sector workers in Nigeria on the minimum wage will see their salaries double after the government reached an agreement with labour unions that have been threatening further strikes as the cost of living spirals. The new monthly wage is set at 70,000 naira, 6 times lower than what the unions were demanding. The offer was accepted with mixed feelings. The new pay award will not take immediate effect as federal lawmakers must still have to pass a new law to approve it. And that's the latest from Jambo Newsroom. I'm Andrew Biney.
Need security? Call Alpha One Plus Limited, a strategic security resourcing platform that connects you with licensed security personnel. We cater for our clients' security needs, from manned guarding, door supervision, event security, all the way up to close personal protection. Alpha One Plus Limited, your one-stop security solution. Call now at 44-074-2526-7909 or send us an email on info@alphaoneplus.com.
Established in 2006 as one of Glasgow's original mobile massage therapists, we deliver high-quality treatments with the ambition to forge permanent relations with clientele. We specialise in on-site massage, a type of treatment that has been specifically designed to complement the convenience and availability of massage at work. It is performed with the use of a specialist mobile chair, without the use of oils or the need to remove clothing. At Massage and Glow, we believe that massage should be a part of your everyday lifestyle. Regular massage not only relieves stress and tension, but also stimulates blood circulation, can help with pain management, and promotes good mental health. A must for your busy schedule. Various holistic therapies available. Contact us now on 07530 905 152 for your mobile massage therapist.
Across the World Wide Web, on your mobile devices, on social media platforms, this is Jambo Radio! www.jamboradio.co.uk. We are multilingual. We are conversational in the languages you best understand. We are Jambo Radio! Jambo Radio, inspiring transformation.
Good morning. It is good to be back. You are listening to Exploring Faith here on Jambo Radio. I'm your host, Inonge Siluka from Overflow Chat. It's been a minute. Was away on holiday in the last episode. So the last episode you would have listened to would have been our discussion on faith and sport. But it's good to be back. I hope you are enjoying the weather. I hope you've grabbed yourself a cup of tea, coffee, hot chocolate, water, whatever it is that you take. Have got a really exciting topic discussing today. No guest, just me, myself, and I. So on Exploring Faith today, we're going to be talking about something that we all have to deal with at some point, don't we? And that is how we make life transitions, like just basically life changes. How do we handle that? What are some helpful things to think about? So that's what we're discussing today on Jambo Radio, on the show Exploring Faith. But in case you are new to the show, just a little snapshot. Exploring Faith is about exploring different aspects of Christian faith. So we talk about questions about the Bible, about Christianity, intersection with African culture. And so if there's any topics that you think absolutely you should discuss that, you should get a guest on for that, please let me know. Would love to hear from you. And as always, if you want to join in the conversation, just in general, if you want to say hi, life check that you're listening to the show. And if you enjoy the show, let me know, let us know. Or if you want to join in this particular conversation about life transitions, about you yourself handle life transitions, please join in. You can send a WhatsApp message or a voice note if you are able to, and the number for that is 0745 990 6822. That is 0745 990 6822. Or you can call the studio direct. Our number is 0141 530 2787. And if you are on social media, you can also send us a message. We are live on Facebook. We're also live on YouTube, so you can listen in from there, but also drop a comment on our Facebook, which is Jambo Radio Scotland. Our YouTube is also Jambo Radio Scotland, and we're also on Twitter, that is Jambo Radio 1, and on Instagram, it's jamboradio.scotland. If you aren't already following Jambo Radio on our socials, please do. Lots of interesting conversations from other hosts as well, aside from myself. And you can also send us an email. The email address is info@jamboradio.co.uk. Or if you want to send that directly to me, I've got a blog where I discuss how to equip Christians to live for Jesus in a secular culture. It's called Overflow Chat. So you can find Overflow Chat website, overflowchat.com. Send an email from that platform, or you can follow on Instagram and Facebook. That is Overflow Chat. So, life transitions. Would love to hear what you think. I've got a couple of questions that I'd love to hear from you. And the first is, what is the biggest life change that you think you've had to make? Like, what has been the biggest life change that you've had to make? And a follow-up question from that is, how do you handle life transitions? And by life transitions, I'm just meaning moving from a different stage of life to another stage of life, especially where those differences are quite stark. So it might be like, moving from one grade in school to another grade, or moving from school to college or university, or graduating from university, or changing job, or getting married, or getting engaged, getting married, getting into a relationship, getting divorced, maybe losing somebody that you love, and having to transition to life without them. So all of these are examples of life transitions. So please let me know how you handle the life transitions. At least if you look back at things that have happened in your life, how do you think you handle them? Pretty well? Are you the type of person that's like, yes, let's keep it moving? Or are you the type of person that hates change? I wonder what kind of person you are, and how you deal with that. So personally, I don't know. I feel like it depends on what the life change is. I think I like change. I get bored with doing the same thing over and over again. But it also takes me a long time to process change. So I like change, but it takes me a long time to kind of register the different changes happening in my own life. So, I would just give a really, really practical example. I moved from Zambia to Scotland when I was 14 years old. And when I first moved, like, honestly, everything moved so fast. I did not have time to process that. I was like, I 1 minute I was in Zambia in school, in boarding school. The next minute I was in Scotland in a completely different kind of high school. And it probably took about 2 years before I was like, oh, I'm not in Zambia anymore. Oh, I left my friends behind. I'm in a new, like, just so I'm excited by change, but also it takes a long time for me to register those changes, which sometimes to the people around me, just seems as if like, oh, like you're so unbothered. You're so unbothered by other things happening around you. But so that's sort of my own, processing of change, and just bringing it to, all our topics. We're trying to think about, does the Bible have anything to say or anything helpful to help diagnose, what we feel and the emotions that we feel and the different reasons that we may enjoy changes or loathe changes. You might be the type of person that does not want anything anything to do with any change or routine, like you like a routine. And there's a few things that came to mind, and just maybe for the person who is resistant to change or doesn't like change, and why might that be? Why might that be the reason for you? And a couple of things came to mind, at least when I look at my own heart and times when I'm resistant to change or don't like change. It's the loss of, I think the first thing is that loss of control. Because when you have a routine and you know what's happening, you feel like, right, I'm on top of this. At least I know what's going to happen next. And that idea of I want to be able to predict what's going to happen next is our desire to be in control. And if we're in control, it gives us a sense of assurance. It gives us a sense of comfort. It gives us a sense of peace of mind to say, okay, at least I know what to expect. I know, for example, that I don't like unexpected things. I like changes, but I don't like unexpected things. So if you tell me we're going to do this activity together, and then we get to the activity and then you're like, oh, actually, I forgot to tell you, we're also going to, like, I do not like that. Because I can deal with changes that I would say are predictable changes, as in, yes, it's a change, but like it's not unreasonable for the change to have come about. But when it's something completely left field, a complete curveball, I'm like, okay, now I'm out of control. Now I don't know what to expect. Now I haven't had time to prepare. So it's that desire for control. And why do we desire control? And I think there's an aspect in which we want to be we think we're mini gods, right? Our culture today and our society and social media has made us think we really are in control of our lives. And to an extent, yes, the decisions that we make and the things that we do, have outcomes and bring about certain outcomes in our lives. And so there is an element in which there's a certain truth to that. But we are not God. We are fragile human beings, and that means we are simply not in control, even when we think we are, even when we've got stuff planned and we've got our list, a nice tidy list of what we're going to do. We're ultimately we are finite human beings. We cannot predict the future. We do not know what's going to happen tomorrow, and that freaks us out because it reminds us that we are dust. It's that passage where I think it's in Ecclesiastes where by the way, Ecclesiastes is such a fun book, like very, very extreme in the messages that come from it, which I think sometimes makes it a difficult book to read, because like 1 minute is like woo party time, the next minute it's like everything is meaningless. But I think one of the good bits about Ecclesiastes is it's just so like down to earth and so like blunt about life. And so there's a passage that say something along the lines of, if I can get it up actually, it's better to go to a house where there's mourning than to one where there's laughter. You think, okay, that's a bit depressing. But the principle, the writer of Ecclesiastes goes on to say, because the living must remind themselves that death is waiting for us all. And it's this idea that like actually tragedy or death in that particular passage reminds us, we need to be reminded of our finite human nature, because when we think we are more than we are, when we think we are many gods, that's not good for us. It's not good for our souls. We rely on ourselves when we should rely on God. We think we're in charge when we're not. And so I think sometimes the curveballs of life, the unexpected changes, we don't like them because they kind of humble us. They bring us down to earth. They kind of point at us and say, you actually thought you were you thought you were in control. Oh, okay, that's funny, because are you God? Sorry. And so I think just in terms of conviction for myself, like the moments where I'm then like, okay, I'm gonna remember that actually I'm not a mini god. I'm made in God's image, but I'm a human being, and that means that I have limitations. And yeah, it's foolish to think that our destiny, if you want to use that word, and everything absolutely depends on us. And if there's a part in which it's liberating. Do you know what I mean? Like, if everything in life depends on you, that is such a crushing weight of responsibility that I don't think any of us were created to handle. And so I think every now and again, the good Lord reminds us that He is not up to us. And I think that He's meant to liberate us so that we can be the full, reliant human beings, reliant on our Creator that He made us to be. So that's one aspect that comes up, like the desire for control, which highlights an element of pride and an element of a God complex within us, or within human beings, that we want to be in control, and therefore changes or life transitions, especially if they're unexpected, remind us that we're not. And that can be hard to deal with, but I think it's a good thing. What do you think? Are you similar? Are you the type of person that doesn't handle things very well? And sometimes there are legitimate reasons why life transitions can be difficult, aside from what I've just mentioned there. And that is, there's an element of grief and loss. So, when you're moving from, school to college or university or college, sometimes the changes involve like losing track or losing touch with people. So when I moved, for example, from Zambia to Scotland, my friends were crying and stuff because, it was literally, I was in the middle of class. A family a friend of my dad, came to pick me up. So my friends were like, oh, we're not going to see you for a while. And, they were experiencing that loss. Like, yes, I wasn't dying. I was literally just moving continent. But they probably were able to process pretty quickly that, even if I was maybe going to come and visit, things were never going to be the same. So there's an element of loss and the grief of something ending, like this friendship that we had. It might not end as in never speak to me again, but it's not going to be the same. And it wasn't. And the reason I was like not processing that is because I was just like, I need to pack my stuff. Thinking about my locker and where I was going to put things. I was very like in the moment, practicalities. I need to pack my stuff and I need to go. But 2 years later, I then experienced that loss and that grief because, I found it difficult to make, I would say, authentic friends. I think I did have friends, but there was always that element where I felt like I didn't quite belong. I was still very much like Zambian, and our life experiences just were not matching. Like, I would talk about programs that I watched, and apparently they made it to the Zambian National Broadcasting Television 20 years after. So I would talk about stuff that I would watch, for example, and they'd be like, what? Yeah, so just really difficult. So loss and grief is a huge part of that. And, it might be that actually you're moving from, you're going to be getting married, for example, and that's going to bring different changes, or you're having children, or you're going to be having children, and that brings different changes, and you maybe move far apart from different friends, and it's not like anything bad happened per se, but you're just like, sure, I actually just miss them, or I miss that, or I miss being able to do those things that I was able to do. And sometimes I look back at my time in university, and I thought I was busy. If you're a university student listening to this and you think you're busy, you might be, but there's a different level of busy that then happens when you're trying to do the adulting thing once you're out of that phase of life and you've got a full-time job. And so there's sort of a nostalgia. I talk a lot about nostalgia, and we want to capture something of the past, because we've glamorize the past. We remember the good and the heights and the joys, and we want to recapture that. We want to relive it. And so when we transition to something new, something different, especially if it's maybe not quite what we would like or what we'd have anticipated, we long for the past and nostalgia of like, oh, that time when I had so much time on my hands, and you know what I mean, like and I think that the nostalgia, again, just bringing it back to Ecclesiastes, it's just a reminder, like the writer in Ecclesiastes says, meaningless, everything is meaningless, a chasing after the wind. And it's this idea that if your whole perspective is just life under the sun, which Ecclesiastes uses the phrase, life under the sun, if everything is just life under the sun and it's just here and now and you only live once and make the most of life, then of course you're going to have those moments of, I need to recapture that exact moment of joy that I felt. But I think the reason nostalgia exists is also, again, to remind us that nothing is forever. That actually we live in a life that is plagued by sin and by death, and that means that our joys are great and we can experience them, but they don't last forever. And that is meant to help us, I think, look upwards and look outwards and outside of ourselves and say, where is this coming from? And I think we'll find when we do that, actually, why do we experience these joys, these happy moments, these things that we long to go back to? They're actually gifts from God, our creator. And so nostalgia helps us remember where the joys come from, and also point us forward to where there will be more joy, that kind of longing of like home, a longing for being truly home, being truly the place of joy and happiness and contentment. And I think that place can only be found in the person of Jesus, and when he does make everything new again. And so loss and grief, and just wanted to mention, I think it's valid to process that. It's valid to just feel that, just, this is sad. I miss that person. Maybe because you're not friends anymore. Maybe they have actually died. Or for whatever reason. And also just that, actually, that was a good period of my life. I really enjoyed that. I learned a lot. I was blessed. I really enjoyed it. And that period of my life is no more. So I think that's okay. It's okay to just feel that and process that, and maybe even verbalize it, so that it's not just eating us up on the inside. So our desire for control can make it difficult to deal with change. Loss and grief can make it difficult. But also, I think there can be a panic. This is where maybe our goals and the way we live life is influenced by just goals and achievements and targets. Life transitions can be difficult if we feel like we're not achieving what we want, or we feel like we're not where we would like to be in life. Do you know what I mean? So, you wanted to be married by 25, 24, 2 kids by 25 or 26 or whatever, in a job paying X amount of money in a nice 3-bedroom house. You know what I mean? Like, you've got that ideal dream, maybe, for example. Or, you wanted to be a badass business owner by the age of, 30 and be on that, whatever you call them, Forbes 30 under 30. Or you had certain goals about, just any kind of goals, what you wanted in life. And then you get to that age or that stage where you thought you were going to be earning a certain amount of money, or you're going to be a certain place with relationships and whatnot, and you're not quite there. And so that transition then feels like it sucks, because you feel like you have failed. And I think, I think a lot of people experience that. And sometimes it's not even goals that expectations you've set for yourself. It's sometimes expectations that like society or church culture has set about where we should be and what we should be doing. So if you're, for example, in a church with loads of families and you're a single person, nobody maybe even say to you that like that's something you need to do, but just the expectation and that silent pressure can make you feel like, I'm not achieving very much in life. You could be doing amazing. You could be loving Jesus, loving your neighbor, serving, doing all these things, but you feel like somehow you're a failure because you don't have a spouse, or maybe you have a spouse but you don't have kids. And so I think that's where it can be helpful to bring it back in and process those emotions. If we are feeling down, we're feeling low about life, is it because we have subconsciously absorbed they're so unnecessary pressures and put them on ourselves? In which case we need to just take a step back and be like, why do I need to do that thing by that stage? So what? Like, what is going to be achieved when that happens, and just give ourselves the freedom to liberate ourselves from these external and internal pressures. Because as a child of God, especially if you are a Christian, there's no such thing as failure in God's eyes, right? You have believed in the gospel. Jesus died for you. He rose again for you. You have been made holy in him because Jesus gives you his righteousness. You are accepted and adopted into his family. You have an identity with him, a new name. You are chosen, loved, beloved. There is nothing that can separate you from the love of God, which is in Christ Jesus. That is who you are. Okay, you didn't get that job that you wanted. It's okay to be disappointed about that. Does that make you a failure? Absolutely no. And so let's examine those emotions. Where are they coming from? And how can we helpfully process them? And is there some things inside of us that can help us to process that? And then the last thing, I think, and perhaps this is for the people that like changes or like switching things up, with sort of me, I feel like I've got 3 years before I kind of get tired of something, on average. I need to switch something up. I need to do something interesting. I don't think there's anything wrong with that per se. I think the only caution with that, and that's something I have to guard against myself, is just that we're not kind of chasing glory in that, like, if I change things up or if I do this, that's gonna give me happiness, that's gonna make me happy. Because if you're just living for this life now, then the things of this life sometimes they don't fully satisfy, right? You've got this, but you always want more, because it's human nature to always want more. If you're looking for satisfaction in other people, right, your spouse, you're looking for them to fully satisfy you, they cannot do that. They do not have the capacity to do that. No human being has. If you're looking for a job or career or a hobby to satisfy you, to bring you that deep sense of joy and fulfillment, those things you're trying to make them do too much for you. They do not have the capacity to satisfy you. They cannot satisfy you because they do not last, and they do not last because they're not eternal. We have a God-given desire to seek pleasure and joy, and God has given us those desires. He has placed eternity in our hearts, Ecclesiastes says. But those are given to us that we might seek him, seek his joy and meaning and truth and happiness and joy in him. And that is found in the person of Jesus. He is the fountain of living water. He is the bread of life that can fully satisfy us. You see what I mean? And so enjoy the good things of life that God has given you, within the constraints that he has given. But don't try and make those things the ultimate goal and constantly pursuing things, because you'll be doing that forever. You'll be doing that for it, and you'll never get to the point of true satisfaction, because those things were never meant to give you it. So yeah, please let me know what you think about all of that. Is there anything else that you would add about life transitions, why we might maybe love them, and why we may maybe find them difficult to deal with? You can contact again, send a WhatsApp on 0745 990 6822, or you can send a voice note as well on the same number, 0745 990 6822, or you can call the studio direct on 0141 530-2787. And if you're watching on Facebook Live and YouTube, you can leave a comment on there as well. We're going to take a music break now, just a little breather as per usual. And I'm going to play a song by a band called Sanctus Real, and it's called My God Is Still the Same.
Just ask the waves if they are still at the mention of his name. They'll say my God is still the same. Ask the walls if they still fall at the mighty sound of praise. They'll say my God is still the same. When they say my God is still the same. Ask the grave if it's strong enough to keep hope in its chains. It'll say God is still the same. Yeah, when did he break his promise? When did his kindness fail? Never has, never will. My God is still the same. When did he lose his power? When did his mercy change? Never has, never will. My God is still the same. Yeah, not once did he ever stop moving. Not once has he ever let go. Not once did he ever stop proving our God is in control. Not once did he ever stop moving. Not once has he ever let go. Not once did he ever stop proving our God is in control. When did he break his promise? When did his kindness fail? Never has, never will. My God is still the same. When did he lose his power? When did his mercy change? Never has, never will. My God is still the same. Not once did he ever stop moving. Not once has he ever let go. Not once did he ever stop proving our God is in control. Not once did he ever stop moving. Not once has he ever let go. Never has, never will. My God is still the same. My God is still the same.
Welcome back to Exploring Faith with me, your host Inonge Siluka from Overflow Chat here on Jambo Radio. Today we are talking about dealing with life transitions. I've talked a little bit about why we might find that difficult, or if you're the type of person that loves change, why that might be exciting for you, and just some principles from the Bible, as we always do, that to help us guide our thoughts, our decisions, and help process some of the emotions and things that we're feeling or experiencing and why that is. Would love to hear from you. What is the biggest change that you have faced in your life? How did you deal with that? How do you deal with changes? How do you process transitions in your own life? You can message on WhatsApp or send a voice note as usual. It's 0745 990 6822. Or you can call the studio direct on 0141 530 2787. If you're listening to this on Facebook Live or YouTube Live, you can also drop a comment there and we'll get back to you. I thought in the second half we would maybe have a think about, okay, right, we've talked about why we find changes difficult. Are there some practical things to consider when we're, moving from one life stage to another, especially? Are there some principles that can guide us? So we'll maybe start with the principles and then some practical things to consider when you're moving phases of life, as it were. So when things are changing, that can make things, a little bit... it makes it difficult to deal with sometimes because you've got a changing thing, and in those moments it's important to remember what it is that is unchanging. So when everything around you and you feel like, oh my goodness, there's too much going on, what is it that is a constant? Like, what is that you can look to that isn't changing? So it might be the things that to do with yourself. You're like, well, are you changing? Because sometimes we don't notice ourselves changing and things around us are changing, and we're like, why are things around us changing? Meanwhile, you are changing as a person, but you just haven't noticed that is happening. And so it's important to kind of stop and be like, am I changing as well? Are the changes around me to do with the fact that I'm not the same person that I was, and therefore I need to sort of, in some regards, embrace embrace these changes. So yeah, what is it? Are you maybe the same? And therefore, if you're the same and other things are changing, then what is the dynamic of that change? But are you changing yourself? In which case, maybe there are ways in which you can assess and process who you are as a person now, as opposed to who you were in the past. But even bigger than that, even bigger than sort of looking at ourselves and our own changes within us, look at who is unchanging. Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. We have a God who is unchanging, and that is the greatest comfort that any of us can ever have, right? Because how many times, like, I have changed so much as a person, like my personality, sometimes I even scare myself with how my personality has changed in certain aspects, because I look at my 21-year-old self and I compare that Inonge to the current Inonge, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, what happened? And on any given day, my mood depends on whether I've eaten and how much I've slept. So can you think about how unreliable it is to have to, you know, if I was just depending on myself, like, I don't even know, like, am I gonna have energy tomorrow? It depends. Have I been fed? Have I slept? Did somebody do something that maybe annoyed me? But God doesn't do that. He doesn't just change and switch up like randomly because, you know, he feels like it, and he's having a tantrum like we do. We are like the grass and fading and moving around, shifting with the winds of a change and society and our moods and our what's happening in our lives. But Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And that means that what he has said about himself is the same. He loved us yesterday, he loves us today. He was sovereign yesterday, he is sovereign today. He cares deeply about us and wants us to grow in knowledge and holiness. And he wants our flourishing as he did yesterday and he does today. And that means that whatever we are in life, that is still the same. We might be different people. Our circumstances might be different, but our God is still the same. And that's why I played that song. Whatever is happening, my God is still the same. And that is a helpful number one anchor, I would say, when you're dealing with especially unexpected changes or unpleasant changes, but any changes in general. Just remember, the God that you worship, the God who made you, the God who died for you, hasn't changed. And for me, I need to remember that constantly, because sometimes life is changing and it feels like, oh my goodness, I haven't figured things out, or I don't even know what I'm gonna do next. This is so unexpected. I don't even know what's gonna happen next year. It's okay. It's cool. He's got you. And so just remember that. Remember the character of God, and remember the unchanging nature of God. And we see that primarily in the person of Jesus and how he has revealed himself through the person of Jesus. And the other aspect of God's character is that there's an unchanging nature of his character, but then there's the sovereign aspect of his character. So God has certain characteristics. He is, he's creator. Obviously, he is God is love. He is all powerful and all these things. He is sovereign. That means he is in control. This is a part of God's character that I think people sometimes struggle with, especially when we're going through difficult situations. If God is sovereign, that means he knows what's happening. He's in control of everything. Why is he allowing me to go through this? The Bible doesn't provide neat, tidy answers. See Book of Job as Exhibit A. But what the Bible does always point to when God's people ask that question, if you read Job is suffering not because of anything he did. It wasn't his fault. Suffering is usually, unless it's self-inflicted, it's very little to do with us and anything we've done. Just live in a sinful world and sometimes we suffer. God's response to Job's suffering was to show up. Like God shows up in the whirlwind to answer Job with his character. Where were you when I formed the world? So God's answer to Job's life crises and questions and suffering was himself. Likewise, you see in many psalms, the psalmist will often ask, like, why do the innocent suffer? Why are you doing this, Lord? And then usually when the psalmist progresses, he will say something, then I entered the sanctuary of the Lord and I remembered. So it's going to remembering that God is sovereign is a comfort, because it says the worst thing that can happen to me is I die, and if I die, I'm going to spend eternity with Jesus. Essentially, to put it bluntly, I'm going to be fine. He has said he will never leave me nor forsake me. And so that kind of eternal security is a helpful comfort, I think. Like, whatever you're going through, whether you're a student, whether you're married, whether you're single, in joys and in losses, whether you're working or still looking for work, whatever circumstances that you're facing, it's not to diminish the difficulty or the challenges of new things and having to deal with new challenges. Those are absolutely valid, and God allows us or gives us the words to lament those. We've got a whole book of the Bible called Lamentations. So it's not that we can never say, oh my goodness, this is difficult, or this is just hard, or cry or weep or lament. Absolutely not. But it's just to remember to point our laments upward to God, God himself, and also to remember that we are eternally secure. Whatever happens to us, whatever goes on in life, we are eternally secure in him. Another principle to remember when we're going through life transitions is that whatever we are going through, or whatever phase of life we're at, God's purpose for our lives remains the same. So sometimes we can get caught up with trying to get into the mind of God, like, what is the thing I'm supposed to do? What is the specific thing? What is my will for my life? What should I be doing next week, tomorrow? And I think sometimes God gives specific direction. I remember speaking to somebody who wanted to do ministry, and they just had a clarity in their minds, like, I've always wanted to do this is my calling, right? But sometimes it's not always clear, and there's two choices can be equally valid. It doesn't make one wrong or one correct per se. But what we do know from the Bible, Thessalonians tells us it's God's will for our lives to be sanctified, right? So what is God's will for your life when you're single? It's to make you more like Jesus. What is God's will for your life when you're married? It's to make you more like Jesus. What is God's will for your life when you've got a really good job, amazing salary? It's for you to grow more like Jesus, etc., etc. You see where I'm going with this? And so in any situation you find yourself in, look around you and say, what opportunities do I have to glorify God in this? How can I make the most of this situation? Okay, I may have lost certain things, but what have I gained? I may have lost certain opportunities, but what opportunities have I gained? I may not be the person that I was. Maybe you were super happy person, now you're a melancholy babe. How can you use your melancholy babeness to bring glory to God? And then ask yourself, in what ways is God sanctifying me, right? Sometimes we're in the pressure cooker, and it's to deal with sin in our life. Sometimes it's to help us rely less on ourselves and rely more on God. And so just asking those, what does it look like in this season of my life to bring glory to God? Bringing glory to God, I know sometimes we use phrases as Christians, it can become Christianese, but bringing glory to God is making, almost like showing God's or demonstrating God's character, like making the most of, like, for other people almost to look at us and be like, oh my goodness, their God is amazing. So what does it look like to magnify and uplift, as it were, the character and who God is in our lives, to shine that out, whatever it is that we're doing. So just for example, I'll just give an example. I work in the charity sector, and I founded a charity organization which I've mentioned before, Restored Hope Zambia, dealing with abuse in the church. Let's look at opportunities that I've had, for example, to serve with different things that I've had in different phases of my life. So when I was like 16, 17, whatever age I was, again, this is the usual, I get bored quickly. I was bored, and I didn't have a hobby per se. I do play a bit of hockey now, but at the time, I just didn't know what was out there and what I could get involved in. So, and I just wanted to be useful. I didn't want to just do nothing with my time, because I would literally sit and watch football all day. Like, I was that babe. I would watch the pre-match analysis, watch the match, watch the post-match analysis, and then watch match of the day, the highlights in the evening. So I was like, I need to do something useful. So I had loads of time. Okay, 17-year-old me had loads of time. So that looked to glorify God with my time, then looked like using my time effectively. So one way that I did that was, I then started signing up for different camps that I would help her at. That's how I got involved with Christians in Sport ministry that I talked about in my previous episode on sport and faith. I was literally like, let me go do a summer camp. Maybe I love working with young people. I seem okay with it. I like sport. So I found out about that, and I served, and now I've been serving in those camps for 10 years plus. But I also was like, let me go volunteer in a charity shop maybe. So I went to a local British Heart Foundation where I stay, and I was like, they needed volunteers, and I felt, their window display looked very old people-y, and I was just like, let's uplift this vibe, let's modernize it a bit. So I helped with that, and I don't know how long I did it, like a few months maybe, got bored. But you get my drift. I had time. The biggest resource I had to glorify God at that period of my life was time. And that would probably have been the same in my student years. And maybe a little bit less time, a little bit more busy, but time, and then maybe opportunity to do different things. So when I was a student, there was opportunity to play sport, there was opportunity to get involved in the Christian Union, which was absolutely crucial to my growing in confidence in Christianity, because the Christian Union was focused on evangelism. So Christian unions or university are focused on evangelism, and when you have to share the gospel with people at university who are smart and they ask you questions back, and I don't know, don't ask me questions. But then that made me go look up the questions about the Bible and all these big questions, some of which we have talked about on our shows. And so, there was an opportunity there for learning and, understanding or being confident in the truth of the Bible and the claims that it makes, and the truth of the Christian message and the goodness of a Christian message. So I had time, I was able to volunteer, I was able to get involved in different societies and engage with people from different worldviews, because people are more open to ideas in university. You'll find when you graduate, people are kind of set in their ways. They're like, I don't want to hear about, do your thing. But in university, like, I had a friend who would like hammer with questions about the Bible and Christianity pretty much on a weekly basis, and it gave me an opportunity to learn. Sometimes she'd ask questions that I hadn't thought about or didn't know the answers to. Those books, those resources, conferences, etc. So glorifying God, my time at that period looked like those things, looked like being super involved in maybe far too many things, learning and growing and engaging and dialoguing with different people who have different belief system and worldviews, and volunteering my time with different camps and things like that. When I graduated, did I have time to do those things? No. So, okay, that's a loss. You're like, oh my goodness, woe is me. I don't even have, there was a period where I was just like, when do you people have time to see your friends? Because I'm looking at my schedule and I'm tired during the week, and my weekends, like, they're taken up. So you're working, you've got less time and less flexibility, but you probably have more money. So you have less time. Maybe you have more. Yes, you're not maybe rich or whatever. But as a student, I was pretty much broke. I just had enough to. I worked part-time, just had enough to pay for what I needed to. As a working person, yes, I wasn't getting a big salary or anything, but I was able to maybe give more in my church or give more to charities and support things a bit more. Maybe nothing too crazy. £10 per month or whatever. My salary, I probably would give like £50 per month or whatever. Like, it wasn't much. But then also different kinds of opportunities arose. So there was a period where I wasn't able to play sport as much, but I became a chaplain instead. And then fast forward another different period, okay, a little bit older, maybe earning a little bit more, giving more, even less time. And so, what does glorifying God look like in those? Okay, maybe it looks like mentoring. Maybe it looks like giving my time. I maybe don't have time to do all the activities, but perhaps I can do 2 or 3 trainings in a year to equip other people to do the same, so that they can do the things that I used to do even better. Do you see where I'm going with this? So life is moving, life is progressing. I'm losing certain aspects. Maybe I'm losing my flexibility, I'm losing my, or whatever, or, you're in a relationship now, there's another person to think about, etc., etc. You lose one thing, you gain another. And so if you're looking at things through the lens of, it's okay, this is where I'm at in life, this is where things are, God is still in control of my life. He's still good. He still cares for me and loves me and wants me to grow in holiness and to flourish and bring glory to Him. What does that look like at this point in time? What does that look like in this new job that I have? What does that look like in this new relationship that I have? What does it look like in this friendship that I have? What does it look like in this church that I've joined? What does it look like in the middle of this friendship drama, and so on and so forth? And so and this all requires actually taking time to reflect, though, because if you're just going through life 100 miles an hour, you're not even gonna notice you're not even gonna notice all these things. So as you notice that you're starting to get uncomfortable and you're like, okay, I don't have time, just sit down. Okay, you don't have time. What does your week look like? What could you drop? What could you adjust? For example, with friendships, I used to be that type of person that would be like, I would meet new people and I'd be like, if I got on with them, I'd be like, oh my goodness, we should hang out for coffee. I don't make those fake promises anymore, because I just know I don't have time. I'm not going to do that. Why would I say something I'm not going to do? And it's okay. Like, actually, we hang out with that person, we got on really well. It doesn't always have to develop into a close friendship, and that's okay. And then with my friends, again, just being a little bit more intentional. I'm trying, not quite where I would like to be, but one of my friends just likes to phone spontaneously every now and again, and so I started copying her, and I would just do that with my, just once in a while, and then just make the time. I am, travel, visit when that baby is born, there will never be time where you're like, okay, now I'm sorted, now I've got loads of time in the world, and so, but those are things you kind of have to sit down and just work out, and it won't be perfect, and that's okay. You won't always get it right, and that's okay. But that whole, how do I bring glory to God as a forefront of your mind can then help you to make those decisions. And as you grow to be more like Jesus, as you are in the Word, be in the Word, be in prayer, God gives us wisdom so that we don't have to constantly panic about, I need God to tell me what to do this very moment. We can use the wisdom He has given us to make wise decisions, and to make decisions that we know, because we are confident that we are relying on His Spirit, that we're making wise decisions and bringing glory to His name. All right, and breathe. I've been talking a lot. Even I'm tired of listening to myself. So please, please do let me know your thoughts. Please do comment. If you're listening to this later in the recording, feel free to leave a message. So you can do that anytime. Would love to hear your thoughts, and just follow me for more of these conversations on Overflow Chat. And our next show will be in a fortnight, but you can listen to a repeat of this next week if you missed it. Thank you very much for listening to Exploring Faith here on Jambo Radio. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. I'm going to leave you with one last song. It's called Cornerstone by Toby Mac. Bye.
You ready, man? Okay.
Yeah, looking out my window, feeling the crescendo, sunset on a quiet sea. Sitting with the ones that I'll forever love, we're waiting on a flash of green. And even when the nights got cold, you have always held me close. You're the only rock that I could ever stand on, you're the only one for me. The sun goes up, the sun comes down, this whole world keeps spinning round. I'm here traveling down this long and winding road. Seasons come and seasons go, they take me high, then leave me low. But I'm still standing on the only rock I know. through a long night, wrestling the hounds of shame. Trying to turn the hands back on a troubling past. Every move I make's in vain. But even in the shifting winds, you are who you've always been. You're the only rock that I could ever stand on. Through it all you remain. The sun goes up, the sun comes down. This whole world keeps spinning round. I'm here traveling down this long and winding road. Your seasons come, the seasons go. They take me high, then leave me low. But I'm still standing on the only rock I know. You're my cornerstone. No matter where I go, my cornerstone. No matter where I go, Mr. Zach Williams. On Christ, the solid rock I'm standing. All of the ground is sinking sand. On Christ, the solid rock I'm standing. All of the ground is sinking sand. Oh, Christ, the solid rock I'm standing. Yes, Lord. You're the only one that I will build my life on. Through it all you remain. The sun goes up, sun comes